This is Casual Babble.
There's a moment in every entrepreneur's journey, a moment many of us never see coming, when the thing that made us irreplaceable suddenly isn't. When the skills we've built or the patterns we've mastered, the edge we've sharpened over years of experience start to feel like they're slipping away. Today, now more than ever, that moment is showing up in the eyes of brilliant people everywhere. Consultants like myself, thought leaders, industry experts, people who once commanded rooms, charged premium rates, and never questioned their place at the table are now quietly wondering, am I still needed? Is the thing that I'm great at now just a downloadable feature and not something crafted over years of experience? Have I already been replaced and no one's told me yet? It's a fear many are too embarrassed to voice. But my guest today, she not only voiced it, she stared it down, reinvented herself, and built a blueprint that's becoming essential for survival in the age of AI. Today, on Casual Babble, we are joined by Dr. Angela Mulrooney, widely known as the arsonist, a title that fits her more literally than you'd expect. Because Angela's work is about controlled burns, burning away the unnecessary, burning away the noise, burning away the identity scaffolding that no longer serves us as professionals who are currently living through one of the biggest technological shifts of our lifetime. And if you ever questioned your relevance, your value, your place in a world increasingly shaped by machine intelligence, this conversation is going to hit home. Now, if you've never heard Angela before, heard her speak on another show, she's someone who has reinvented herself more than once. Not out of choice, but out of necessity. She's built and sold businesses across multiple industries. She's lived in the intersection of mastery, precision, and high performance. And as she shared in our conversation, she also lived through the gut punch of matching AI replicates. And, as she shared in our conversation, she's also lived through the gut punch of watching AI replicate almost perfectly the very competencies she spent years honing. But instead of retreating, Angela went all in. She dove headfirst into a 6-month AI mastery program, 18 hours a week, not to fight the machine, and not to pretend she was somehow untouchable, but to understand exactly what was coming for her and how to learn how to build with it, not against it. She broke down her own intellectual process, the methods, the pattern recognition, the strategic architecture she used to build premium personal brands, and taught AI how to assist in that work. She reduced a 10 to 12 hour, $5,500 strategic engagement into something her clients could self-generate through her system, while freeing herself to focus on the kind of work that only a human can do. She built tools that help thought leaders create content, not generic AI-sounding stuff, but messaging aligned with their identity, tone, lived experience, and genius. Most importantly, she created the concept of niche of genius, a point where a person's lived experience, human insight, and embodied mastery form a filter no AI can fully replicate. In Angela's words, we can't out-volume or outspeed AI, but we can out-human it. And that is the heart of today's episode. This isn't an AI panic conversation. It's not a robots are coming for our jobs rant. It's a candid, grounded, deeply insightful look at how AI really is changing the expert economy, what work becomes when intellect is no longer rare, why identity, not skill set, becomes the new currency, how entrepreneurs can future-proof themselves by pivoting, building, and leveraging what's emerging, and how to develop the courage, resilience, and clarity to stay relevant in a world that is evolving faster than any of us expected. Angela calls herself the arsonist because she helps experts burn down what's no longer serving them. The outdated offers, the old positioning, and the external validation loops, so they can build something sharper, truer, and more aligned with the future of work, not the past. And in this episode, she goes on deeper into that new philosophy. We talk about the biology of fight, flight, and freeze when our professional identities are threatened. We talk about why many entrepreneurs are afraid to be visible, how to differentiate yourself when everyone can access the same tools, and about the rise of impact-driven entrepreneurship and why the world is shifting from who do you work for to what do you stand for. We even get into the emotional side of this, the annoyance, the fear, the vulnerability, the ego hits, all of which she openly acknowledges when sharing how she watched AI replicate her work with frightening accuracy. This conversation is raw, refreshing, and honestly, it's pretty necessary. So, not just for business owners, but for anyone navigating an identity in the age of machine intelligence. So, without further ado, this is Casual Babble featuring Dr. Angela Mulrooney, aka the Arsonist. Back. Thank you so much for being with me on the show. I was so excited to talk to you the first time, and hopefully we have the same gumption and energy to babble on again for a second official round here. So to kick off, please let everyone know who you are and what your current venture in entrepreneurship is.
So I'm Dr. Angela Mulrooney. I'm known as the arsonist. And what I currently do is identity architecture, and I've built a couple of products that help people to really get their identity nailed down for the marketplace so that they can create the impact that they want.
Love it, love it. And we talked a whole lot about how you kind of came to this realization that there was a real impact on your own identity professionally with the advent of AI, and how almost limitlessly expansive it seems to be in everyone's world these days. And of course, we're now hopping into this new kind of conversation of the cyclical relationship between creativity, entrepreneurship, and then the culture that they feed into. Starting kind of from that moment, that pivotal moment for you where you had that realization, and how that shifted your thoughts on creativity and how you decided to seek out a new angle for yourself in both life and professionally.
Well, what happened was it was a little bit before summer last year in 2024 when I was like, oh, this AI thing it's getting good really quickly.
Yeah.
I could see how it was going to massively affect my work because my work is based on intellect, it's based on speed, it's based on pattern recognition. I'm like, that's everything that AI is. So
Yeah.
I went off and decided to do an AI mastery course. It was 6 months long, about 18 hours a week of work. And
Cool.
yeah, it was a lot. And they're teaching us things like how to count cheese and kind of useless things that they were giving us concepts that we were supposed to jump from. And one of the first concepts they gave me, I was like, I could be using this to replace a bunch of the work that I'm doing in the way that I do my work. So I could specifically train it in the pattern recognition that I have to build out people's brands. So I took a process that used to take me 10 to 12 hours where I'd interview people, build out their playbook, and what would happen was 10 hours later, they paid me $5,500 and they would have their whole strategy. So what I did was I went back and reviewed what I had previously done. Like I listened to conversations and I slowed down my brain. I was like, okay, here's where I made that decision. Here's where I made that decision, and started creating a pattern recognition system with AI to be able to get people to self-interview. So they go into the machine and they talk to it, and then it spits out their playbook, which is 60 plus pages. It gives them an education on their brand as well as highly customized insights for them. So
That is so cool.
yeah, so that was the first pivotal point. And then the next one was my clients always need to put out content and they hate doing it. So I was like, well, why don't I build something that makes that easy, that's based on their playbook, so it's highly customized to them. So they can drop an idea, they can drop a video, it writes a full-on article for them, it writes posts for them, it creates polls, it creates carousels, all these things based on that intellectual property that they have for that concept, and then they can do a whole bunch of different ones if they want. But it makes it easy for them to create content, and it's totally on point with their tone of voice. It sounds like the way that they speak, so it comes across very on point for them.
That's incredible. I love that you didn't back down from it. I love that you chose, let's figure out a way to circumvent the agency that this thing has and make it work for me. So as you approach that, what were your kind of preconceptions of what that would look like in harnessing AI in this way, and then compared to what it actually is? Like, what was that assumption versus reality for you?
Well, my assumption was it would do a good enough job. And I have put a few of my new companies through it for myself, my own companies,
Hmm.
let alone my clients.
Yeah.
And what it spits out now, I'm like, man, this is way better than I could ever do. So it's actually exceeded my expectations, which is slightly annoying, but it's also awesome because we keep iterating it to get better and better.
Awesome, awesome. Usually when we talk about imposter syndrome, it's usually from the perspective of, before we engage something, we're looking at the scope of it from a distance. Did and you This is almost like a moment post facto. Did that kind of do the same thing, or was it a weird like variation of that almost? That.
It was definitely a shift. Again, it's annoying that it can do that good of a job. And when I hear people being like, "Oh, it's never going to replace me," I'm like, "You're kidding yourself that it's not going to replace you. Anything that's intellectual, it definitely is going to
Mhm.
replace you."
Yeah.
And you can let it replace you, or you can feed it. You can let it eat your lunch, or you can feed it your lunch the way that you want it to, the way that I did. But I don't think the annoyance just comes from how good it got and how quickly it got there.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
But I still know that what I do is valuable because what I've done is replaced some of the stuff that I don't need to be doing anymore. People can access it it's 90% less than what I was charging to do it manually for them. And now I can
Hmm.
work on other projects. So I'm building out AI products with some of my clients as well. I'm doing other innovative things. So it's freed up my time to keep moving myself forward.
Yeah. And now delving into the niche of mastery, one of your big pivotal points, and something that you like to make sure that you push to your clients, there are still certain nuanced things that AI can't do yet that people should really kind of anchor themselves to. So talk a little bit about that and how you kind of realize that yourself.
So I often talk about niche of genius, which is helping people to figure out, okay, what is your experience, your expertise that is a filter for the information that's coming out?
Hmm.
Because we can't out volume, we can't outspeed AI. There's
Right.
no way we can compete with that. But with you've gone on ChatGPT and the like and asked a question, and it gives you a bunch of
Hmm.
things, and then you ask another question and it gives you a slightly different version of those things. And
Hmm.
an hour later, you might not even realize what you started off talking to it about.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then trying to go back through the feed and figure out what you should be doing with that information, it's a lot. So when people have that history of experience and expertise, they can be that discernment, they can be that prioritization factor, they can also be the time collapse for people to get results with what people are trying to achieve by talking to the machine. So this is part of the reason I built the playbook and the content machine, was like, I can be that filter so that they don't have to be
Mhm.
mucking around with the machine trying to figure out, like, what should I do with this? What outputs
Right.
are actually valuable? And that's where people can really make themselves irreplaceable at this point. I don't know how long that'll last, but at this point, you can be that filter for that information so that people aren't spending so much time trying to sort out the information on the machine. You can give them the guide to move themselves forward quickly.
Gotcha. And part of your story, there are moments where you have to kind of discern when it's time to, double down on something that's already established, or when it's time to pivot. So how do you help them understand when that moment is and what choice they need to make?
Build a product that is that filter that people can access on their own.
Yeah.
So you can leverage good products, or you can pivot. So you can take your filter to a different part of your industry or to a completely different industry. So it's trying to figure out which of those lanes actually fit better for you. Then you pick whichever of those three lanes feels best to you. Because if you're fighting your biology and you're going into paralysis, or you're going into flight where you're just like, I'm out of here, this doesn't make sense anymore at all, that's not a good way to move forward. So we need to figure out which of those paths, because all of them are viable,
Hmm.
but you just got to figure out which one actually works best with your biology.
Now, have you ever had a client who kind of learned that their gut was wrong, that they ended up choosing a path that wasn't quite the best fit? And if so, is there a way that you have set up to where they can kind of not make sure that time invested hasn't been a total loss? They can kind of reiterate it to another path.
Yeah, and that's part of what the playbook does. So with it giving you your niche of genius, giving you your buyer avatars and their journey, you can take that and you can build a company in many different ways around that. So it's not one set path,
Yeah.
right? So what people are realizing right now is, okay, a month from now, things may look very different in the landscape.
Right.
So I need to be ready to evolve very quickly. So they're constantly iterating what they think is the right thing to adjust to what's coming out in the market. And right now, just people have to be very dexterous with their ability to pivot. And it doesn't have to be massive pivots. Like you don't have to do like a 180. You could just be doing a tiny one to adjust, and then you adjust in another direction. But you just got to be paying attention to what's happening and get feedback from your ideal clients and your audience.
Yeah.
A lot of people are just throwing information out there and putting out content that isn't interactive. They're not having conversations. They're just like, well, I think this is what we should do. And they're creating a product that isn't selling. So you need to actually take that time and have those conversations with people and find out what is actually happening with them. Because what you think, what you're assuming is happening from what you're seeing on a profile, and then you have a discussion with someone, you're like, they have no money, they're not feeling successful, they're feeling completely stuck. There can be a massive disconnect between what people put out there and what is actually happening. But once you have a conversation, if you can get them speaking vulnerably, you can find out a lot, and then you can make better decisions for your company.
Gotcha. And as they prepare for those potential shifts in the market and the landscape, aside from all those, how do I say, not dexterous or like that, those pivotable elements, is there anything aside from those that you would say need to remain static throughout that growth? Anything that should remain the same, or should everything be dexterous in that way?
Well, I think what needs to remain the same is figuring out who you are and what you actually what you're trying to do in this world. And you could call that soul's purpose. You could call it just, what you're meant to do by being here. Once you figure out what that is, and you know that that's what you should be doing, then that makes it easy to make those pivot points. Because a lot of how we've been trained is by external validation, right? If we go to university, it's the marks that we get. It's who we're competing against for scholarships. It's then once we get into the job market, it's getting the job, climbing the corporate ladder, getting those positions and those titles, and those external awards that say you did a good job. So when that all gets peeled away, which is what is happening right now, because what we pride ourselves on, our intellect, our achievements, it's going away. So if you don't know, if you're not centered in who you are and what you actually want to bring to the table, or bring to this world, that would be the table, then it's really easy to get knocked off path. But once you know, then it's easy to be dexterous with where you need to go.
Gotcha. And as they're learning to take that and learn how to convert that into that storytelling to make those postings, those engagements more capable, more opportunistic, what do you find if there is a common obstacle for them in regards to learning how to do that? Is there anything that's kind of across the board, or does everyone seem to have kind of maybe their own obstacle when it comes to learning how to convert what they've bring to the table into that storytelling element?
Well, I think it's not learning the process, it's getting over yourself, because we've been taught, you need to be humble, like, don't brag about what you're great at. And when I use the term niche of genius, they're like, but I'm not a genius. I'm like, well, you're a genius at something, so we're going to leverage that. But they're afraid to put themselves out there because, again, that we're so used to that external validation that we're afraid that someone is going to troll us. And I've been trolled plenty. It's awful.
Yeah.
And I've had moments where I'm like, why am I even putting myself out there if this is what people are going to say to me behind the scenes? Like, it's yucky. But then I come back to what my role is in this world and what I'm trying to do, right? So they have to get brave, and they also have to develop rhinoceros skin, because you are going to have people who are going to say ugly things to you because you're putting yourself out there. So you have to be ready for that. And you have to keep putting yourself out there in order to get traction. And a lot of times people, they're measuring vanity metrics, which is, how many likes did you get? How many comments did you get?
Right.
And especially on a platform like LinkedIn, you don't want to be worrying about that stuff. You want to be worrying about whether you're getting people seeing your stuff, so the impressions.
Right.
And then if people are getting on a call with you, are they saying, hey, I got on a call with you because of that post, because of that article, because of that video that you posted? That's what matters. So is that content turning into good conversations that are turning into sales? If you're just doing, well, we see a lot of people doing fake engagement, right? There's
Yeah.
little engagement pods where you have a group of friends who are all engaging with your stuff, and it's manipulated. If that's not driving sales, then why would you do it, right? So if you're putting out content, you're not getting the vanity metrics, the likes and the impressions, or the likes and the comments, but you are getting impressions and you're getting people on calls and you're getting sales. That's what really matters. And so they need to lean into that, because everyone at some point in their life wanted to be popular, right? So when you're putting stuff out there, it feels nice when you get the likes and the comments, but that's not what you need to be measuring. It's actually getting sales.
I like how I like you mentioning that it's part of it's just about having to put yourself in that position and being afraid to put yourself out there. I work with a couple of nonprofits with their social media teams, and a lot of them are like, I don't know how to like organize things here. They'll show me stuff that they've done, and I'm like, this looks really, really good. What are you concerned about? These like, as far as like arranging elements on a canvas and like, you know, hierarchies and whatnot. And I'm like, look, what you got to realize sometimes is that a lot of what you convinces you that someone else has done that makes it seem really cool isn't actually the analytical breakdown of what they put out. It's the fact that they just put it out. The simple fact that someone's put something out there sometimes tricks us into thinking that that's higher quality stuff. No, not necessarily. It could be better, it could be worse. But because they actually just didn't put it out there, it kind of has this weird subconscious establishment. Oh, that's higher level stuff. I can't do that yet. So I love that you mentioned that. That's a nice correlation, and I really love that. So moving from your entrepreneurial experience and now into the culture and just kind of considering how you either hope to, or maybe you've seen how your work is kind of now helping to feed into the culture, which will inspire the next wave of creativity. Anything in particular that you've noticed, or anything that you want to see happen in the future of your work?
I just really want to see people step into their potential. That's the whole reason for the playbook. That's the whole reason for the content machine, is helping people to get rid of those external validations and really know themselves and really start stepping into their purpose. And when you step into your purpose, that's where you really start creating that measurable impact, because you're in your genius all the time then, if you are in purpose. And what that does is you start working with those clients who are ideal for you. You start doing your very best work. You will start making more money as well as a result of that. But the more important part is that impact for most of the people that I talk to. And so that's the shift that I want to start seeing, is more impact-driven entrepreneurship versus profit-driven entrepreneurship. And I think we're having people wake up to that. You see how much people check into companies to see who is behind a business now. You know, that started happening extremely during the pandemic as people's opinions, you know, split up groups. We see that with politics, it's splitting up groups. So people are wanting to know the person behind the brand. And so that also is what plays into being successful, is being willing to put yourself out there and show who you are. And you're going to have people who love you, and you're going to have people who hate you for who you are. And that's actually okay, because that's what's going to get you the right kind of clients. You want to focus on the ones who love you. The ones who hate you, you know what? They're just not meant to be a fit for you.
100%. And then to kind of reiterate with your practice of helping people essentially future-proof themselves when it comes to choosing the right path, following their gut, and making sure certain variables in their business are dexterous, as you said. What would be kind of a nice kind of overarching insight for other entrepreneurs on how to future-proof themselves in their business?
So you got to pay attention, right? When things are starting to change, we have 3 different responses. We've got fight, flight, or freeze. And you need to be paying attention to that. You know, if you're starting to go into freeze mode, you need to find out why. Maybe it's because you're hiding from the information, right? When I decided to do my AA Mastery course, I was starting to get into a little bit of that freeze mode where I'm like, I don't know what to do. There's so much information. And so how do you shift yourself into action from that? If you're feeling flight mode, where you're like, oh, I got to get out of here, I don't want to do this, maybe it's time to retire, but you're not ready to retire, you got to dig into that as well. So I think it's really paying attention to your responses and not hiding from it. Like, you are going to have feelings about disruption, right? It doesn't feel nice when you can see, oh, my income is going to disappear in the next year if you don't do something. So digging into that, your physiological responses, and then finding yourself into alignment so you can be in a mode of taking action to help yourself. That's where I think we really need to be paying more attention to, and it's going to be coming at us faster and harder all the time as things continue to evolve.
I love that. Okay. Thank you so much. I feel like I need to have you on 5 more times in the near future, because there's so much we can absolutely unpack when it comes to the way that you are helping people prepare themselves for the, as you said, ever-changing landscape that is the digital world. So I want to thank you for being on this time, and I want to have you on again. So thank you so much. Go ahead.